From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
And there's SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on News Channel 5 Plus tonight. Going to talk a lot about the Titans. They're getting set for that final week of the preseason. Joint practice in the morning over at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park with the Arizona Cardinals. Then Thursday, the two teams going to split back and practice on their own. Mike Vrabel, Cliff Kingsbury making that decision in an effort to preserve their team's health and to try to get a little different work in ahead of their final preseason game coming up on Saturday night. And, of course, the regular season openers just a couple of weeks away. Now 19 days away from September 11th and the Titans open a game to week 1 of the season against the New York Giants. Lots of things to see what will happen with the Titans at this point. It is a preseason up till now that I think the Titans have impressed me in their depth at several positions. I think this team is better in what will ultimately be the 1-53 than I thought it was going into training camp. But there are some big questions out there that I just don't know what the answer is right now. Two of them remain on the offensive line. The biggest one there is who's the starter at right tackle. I think it's going to be Nicholas Petit-Frere based off of what we have seen. He's increased the reps with the first team here in recent weeks. Dylan Radins has worked now this week, some at the guard positions. So that looks a little bit more like the swing job that he held last year as a backup and seems more like Petit-Frere could be the guy at right tackle. We obviously don't know that for sure, but that is a major question. And can one of those guys really be a legitimate, solid NFL right tackle at this point? Titans have struggled there since Dennis Kelly left. They've tried to bring in guys. Didn't work with Isaiah Wilson. It didn't work with Dylan Radins last year. It may not work with him this year. Can Nicholas Petit-Frere be the answer? Big questions there. The other one is Aaron Brewer at left guard. He appears to be the guy. He appears to have beaten out Jamarco Jones and any other comer for that position. It seems like Aaron Brewer will be the left guard. But my question when you look at Aaron Brewer in that situation is, it happened so quickly that it seemed like they locked in on him. Did Aaron Brewer win the job in training camp for the Titans because he was so good? Or did he get the job in training camp because the guys behind him were not nearly good enough? And I honestly don't know the answer to that. And it's difficult to judge Brewer right now because he pretty much goes against Jeff Simmons in every rep in camp. And I don't care who you are on the offensive line. If Jeffrey Simmons is across from you, you are going to get beat a lot. Now, that should make him better. There aren't many guys in the league that are as good as Jeffrey Simmons is. But it's a question right now whether Aaron Brewer, to me, has won the job or whether it's a factor of it's just not a very good position on this team. He's the best option for them right now. Cornerback is going to be a fascinating thing for me because I think everybody has just sort of assumed that Caleb Farley, being back healthy, first-round pick from last year, he's going to pencil in as the number 2 cornerback opposite Christian Fulton. He's been up and down. I think he's getting better. I think he has all the talent in the world and the potential to be an absolute star. But right now, he's been up and down, whether that be in practice, whether that be in the joint practices last week against the Bucs, or whether that be in the 2 preseason games we've seen against the Ravens and Bucs. It's been up and down. It's been inconsistent. It's been kind of what you would expect from a guy who, in terms of reps on the field, is still very much a rookie, despite being in year 2. The guy they drafted in the 2nd round this year, Roger McCreary, has actually been more consistent in my eyes. Now, he's a little bit smaller, definitely doesn't have the arms, some of the traits that are so special about Farley that made him a high-level first-round pick. But at the moment, he's getting the job done. He's blanketing guys. He's making plays. So is it possible that he wins that job? Is he the number 2 starter on September 11th against the Giants opposite Christian Fulton, over Caleb Farley? That's an interesting question. And again, I don't know if we'll know the answer until that day. But there's no question that it is a competition right now for that spot, and it is the only spot on the defense that essentially is up for grabs. I mean, up front, you know what you're getting. Linebacking core, you know what you're getting. You even know the backups to the guys and when they'll be on the field. You know the guys at the safety position, Byard and Hooker, and you know Fulton will be out there. But will it be Caleb Farley that gets the first crack or Roger McCreary? And depending what that answer is, what does that do inside? Elijah Molden's back. Is he the top nickel guy? Or will McCreary be in there some? Those are questions. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out as we get set for game number 1. Wide receiver is the other position just to see who's out there. I think tight end, it'll be interesting to see the divvy of reps when you get into the regular season, but I think you know the guys. It's Austin Hooper, it's Chigakonkwo, it's Jeff Swaim, and it's Tommy Hudson. Those 4 guys are going to make this team, and they're all going to play because that's how much this offense uses the tight end. Wide receiver's a different story because there are 8, 9 guys that have been in the mix in training camp. They're not keeping 8 or 9 guys. Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Kyle Phillips. Those 4 guys absolutely are a part of this team. But then after that, it's a question. I mean, number 1, how many wide receivers do they keep? We've seen the Titans in the past keep as few as 5 and as many as 7. How many do they keep on this team because of what they view their value, not just in the passing game, but on special teams? And who are those guys? Racey McMath, to me, has been a revelation in this camp because he has used his size and speed to get separation and make some big plays. He brings an element to the offense that is an over-the-top strike and the ability to go high point the ball and get it that they haven't had a ton of in the offense. And yes, I think Treylon Burks is going to be that guy as well. But McMath brings you that, and he brings you the speed to do it. So maybe Burks is the guy that goes over the middle, makes those contested catches, the out routes with the strong hands. Maybe that's Treylon Burks. Robert Woods, the crafty veteran. Maybe Racey McMath's role is to come in and take the top off over the defense 1, 2, 3 times a Sunday. Is he in the mix here? Mason Kinsey is a guy who's been around as a veteran. He certainly knows what he's doing out there, but is the talent gap too much? Can he overcome it with the smarts and the instincts of being around? Des Fitzpatrick's a guy they drafted higher than McMath last year, and they raved about the offseason that he had. But I don't think you've seen that same level of consistency from him in training camp. What's his role on this team? Reggie Roberson led the team in receiving on Saturday night against the Bucs. There are other guys you can point to. How many wide receivers will the Titans keep? And which ones will they be? Those are the big questions. And now this week we get to the place where you really talk about the roster. Titans had to cut down to 80 today. They put Caleb Shudak, the backup place kicker, on the physically unable to perform list. So he stays with the roster but doesn't count because he's on the PUP list and he can't play through the first 4 weeks of the season. Could come back later on. I imagine that's just a protection thing. If Randy Bullock goes down, maybe you bring him back at some point. But for right now, Randy Bullock's the kicker and Caleb Shudak is unable to be out there. But that got the Titans down to the 80 cut line of today. They've got to get all the way down to 53 by this time next week. So that's 27 more cuts that they have to make. Some will be more difficult than others as you try to get down to those final 53, and the 53 you want to take in to week 1 against the New York Giants. How that plays out remains to be seen, but this is the week where everybody understands that those cuts are coming, and they're probably going to come every day. There will be guys get weeded out and then one big cut after the final preseason game and into next week. How does that play out? We shall see, but it's going to be in the back of everybody's mind, every single guy's mind that doesn't already have a guaranteed roster spot. They're going to be thinking about it because this is their livelihood, this is their job. And Mike Vrabel made a point about this yesterday when we talked to him, that he understands what time it is. Everybody understands what time it is. But they had a game Saturday night. They had to come back and make their corrections. Now they're getting set for joint practices, one practice against the Cardinals, and then another preseason game on Saturday night. He wants his guys focused on getting better each day, not on what their roster status is, because that's a waste of time. Whatever happens next week, happens next week. If they call your name, they call your name. But he wants to make sure that this team is focused to get the most out of tomorrow and Thursday and preparation Friday for the game and then the game on Saturday and whatever else they do before those final cuts come next week. And the one thing you know about Mike Vrabel, he has a way of getting his message across. It may seem like it's easier said than done, but he has a way to get to his players the understanding that this is the only way the team has success. You have to put the team above you, and also what's good for the team is often good for you. What's good for you is what's good for the team. And this week, that's about being laser focused on the joint practice tomorrow, on the corrections and the teamwork they're going to do on Thursday, and then about going out and competing the best way you can on Saturday night. And it'll be interesting to see what the reps look like, because it's mostly going to be individual stuff tomorrow for the Titans and the Cardinals. No teamwork between 11 on 11 from the two teams. They're going to go back and work together amongst their own team for that. So it's going to be a lot of individual stuff tomorrow. And then they canceled the second day of joint practices. Does that mean we're going to see a bit more of the starters or a bit more of the regulars on Saturday night? I don't know. I'm not sure we will. But whatever the workload is this week, Mike Vrabel wants his guys zeroed in. And we'll continue to talk about these position battles. We'll continue to assess the 53-man roster right up until that deadline next Tuesday, and then you turn all attention towards September 11th in Game 1 against the Giants. As we think about these position battles, I told you, Aaron Brewer looks like he's locked in at left guard, but there are questions elsewhere. And I posed those to Jonathan Hutton Sunday night on the Electric Power Company's Sunday Sports Central. The Titans appear to have a left guard in Aaron Brewer, who has had a good camp. But as we mentioned, Nicholas Petit-Frere started at right tackle last night, and Dylan Radin struggled a bit again. So I ask you, do they have a right tackle?
But sometimes yes, sometimes no. And that's not a good sign, right? Radin's, he's been given opportunities to be the guy. He has not done that. So it's back in the fire against the Cardinals this week, Steve. Nicholas Petit-Frere, if there was a gap between him and Radin's, he's closed that gap. Keith Carter has been working on his technique. That's why he was a third-round pick for this team. And bigger, and he's bigger and longer than Radin's, too. So I think he can use that frame to win the job. But he's got to be more consistent leading up to week 1.
All right, moving on. Those guys will be blocking for Ryan Tannehill, and I think it's pretty clear the Titans are in trouble if number 17 goes down this year. Whether it's Malik Willis or Logan Woodside, do you feel good about whoever the backup QB may be?
Well, I've seen enough of Woodside to know he's not a starter. Malik Willis can be, though. He needs a lot of refinement, a lot of fine-tuning for this NFL game. I love his self-awareness. He admitted he's struggling to find the balance between stepping up and hitting open receivers and feeling pressure and then making off-schedule plays with his legs. They're working with him on climbing the pocket, letting routes develop, but he's not ready to start. Expectations change if they had to go to him. It's good they don't, and they need to stay that way.
Yeah, I would say. On defense, the Titans returned all but one starter from last season, and that's the #2 cornerback position, where the hope was that a healthy Caleb Farley would just slide right in. But he's been up and down in camp and in the preseason games. So do they have a #2 cornerback right
Yeah, we're looking at him. It's Caleb Farley. They have no other option but to trust the reasons why they drafted him where they did. They're playing him a ton because he's barely played at all the last 2 years. He's working to understand the nuance and break points based on the down and distance. It's time to see more consistency, though, because they'll need Fulton, Farley, and McCreary at corner at those spots this year, Steve.
And finally, this is a bit of a trick question here, but it's a very real conversation. Do the Titans have a punter, or is there an actual competition here between Brett Kern and Ryan Stonehouse?
It's open right now, and I'd predict Stonehouse wins this job if we were filling out a roster right now. Kern has the touch. He has all the tricks of the trade, but Stonehouse has the 80-yard leg we saw last night. He's now holding for Bullock. That's a clear sign that they're eager to see Stonehouse win the job and potentially play in September.
We know at some point the Titans will move on from their longest tenured player. This may be the year with the leg of Ryan.